I was part of the Conspiracy of Hope tour in 1986, along with U2 and Peter Gabriel, which was very successful in terms of money raised, which was 2.6 million. We got 100,000 new members, and we raised the profile of Amnesty in the United States. One of the high spots of the tour was meeting and talking with former prisoners who'd been freed by the efforts of Amnesty. When I'm asked why I support Amnesty so strongly, I usually point out that what appeals to me about the organization is its focus on individuals. This is an era where rock stars are constantly asked to lend their names to a multitude of worthy causes, some of which are rather vague and woolly, along the lines of, let's all hold hands and make the world a better place. Well, I never understand the logic of this. I want very quickly to tell the story of one man to illustrate my point. Sita Ram Maski is 39 years old. He's a teacher of deaf children in the Kingdom of Nepal. As we speak, he is in prison. He's neither been charged nor tried. On May the 9th of 1987, he was picked up by the police in Kathmandu and sent to Badragal jail on a detention order lasting 9 months. Under the Public Security Act, this order can be repeated up to a maximum of 3 years for, among other things, breaching the peace and tranquility inside the Kingdom of Nepal. Sita Ram has served his first detention order. He is now on to his second. The conditions in the jail are terrible. The building itself is in a state of imminent collapse. There is neither heating nor hot water. The prisoners, political and criminal alike, are kept 25 to a cell. Some are very violent. No food except for rice is provided, and not enough firewood with which to cook it. All letters are censored. His wife has to travel 300 miles to visit him. She spends half her salary from the deaf school on fares. Sometimes she gets there, waits all day, and is not allowed to see her husband. She then goes home. Sita Ram Maski has no hope of even being considered for release until 1990.
Really involved with Amnesty on the last tour we did in '86, the Conspiracy of Hope tour. And I think when you start meeting prisoners of conscience, and you're talking to someone, shaking their hands, and they're telling you about incredible tortures and horrors that they've experienced, there's no way that you don't want to respond in some form. And I'm very glad that this is the way I can do something. There's one lady we met on the last tour who was telling us of her horrific experiences of torture. And just after the tour, we learned that her son Rodrigo had gone back to Chile, and the military grabbed hold of him and covered him in kerosene and burnt him. And when you realize that sort of thing is going on, and you start becoming involved with those individuals, it's incredibly compelling. I think one of the reasons that this tour is very exciting is because of this booklet. Innocent as it may seem, I think it could have an enormous impact in changing the world in which we live. And we would like to be something that empowers people, which gives this booklet some teeth, which forces governments to respond to it. It was universally adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations 40 years ago, and very little of it, as has been said here, has been enacted. And it's not a case of us in the rich Western countries going to the other parts of the world and telling them how to run their lives, but every government has to clean up its act. The platform of this is extremely broad. It doesn't just cover the civil and political rights, with the prisoners of conscience and the torture that we're familiar with through the work of Amnesty, but it also says that any child born on this planet should be able to grow up and expect food, shelter, job, free education, health care, and that there should be special rights for motherhood, labor rights. It really is worth reading and looking at, because it can provide a frame of reference for many areas of social activism. I think if we help activate people all over the world through this tour, even if it's only 1% of the audience that we reach, 10 years, 15 years, from now, the effect could be enormous. And I'm very hopeful that a lot more of this document will find its way through the will of the people into the legal systems of the countries that we're visiting and all those that we're not. We hope to go to, or we're definitely going to Africa, India, Central South America, and all sorts of places, and we were very keen indeed to get to the USSR, which we feel is especially important. But I think overall we would like to encourage ordinary people to fight for their rights. First of all, to learn what their rights are as agreed by their governments and as defined in this document, and then to fight for them. And overall, I'm here because I believe ordinary people have power. Amnesty was built on the simple premise that by taking 5 minutes of your time and writing a letter, you may actually pull someone out of torture, rescue them from execution. That's an exhibition that ordinary people have power. This is a document through which the will of the people can find a voice, can find power. And I would like to thank very much all the artists, Amnesty, all the organizers for getting this thing going. It was a fantastic venture.
Amnesty, for me, and its issues. When I was a kid, I went downtown and I bought a single. I think it was like a Rolling Stone when I was 15. And I came back and I put it on the record player. It was a little piece of plastic that everybody, remember my father thought it was junk. But I found on that record a transcendent moment of freedom that touched and changed my life since that time. And I think that rock, at its best, that's what it makes. It makes freedom. And as far as I can see, that's what Amnesty International does. And that's why I'm here. I think Amnesty makes the world a little less oppressive, a less brutal place to live in. And I'm here to help Amnesty do its job. So that's really Tracy Chapman. I knew I should have wrote that down.
As an artist, it's very important for me to communicate to people through my music about ideas and feelings, and I think that it's real important that this tour will take place because hopefully it'll create a dialogue between people about the importance of human rights, and this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the text of it encompasses so many things that I have grown up believing and feeling, and I just hope that people will be made aware, and people's consciousness will be raised, and people will enjoy the shows, and maybe I'll have a good time also.
Yeah, it's a hard act to follow, I have to tell you.
But I hope so. I'd like to see us be able to work in more ensemble fashion. I think that's the one thing that people, they come to my show, they can see me, they can see Sting, they can see Tracy, but they can't see us all together in one place singing together. So I hope that we have the opportunity to do that, and all we gotta do is practice.
What are you going to sing together?
I think it's both things. I think people come out to see a rock show, you know, that's one thing. And I think that there are also people, if you reach a small percentage of that audience, I think there are people who do go home, who do think about the issues. And as far as I'm concerned, if you reach one person who goes home, who reads the information, and then you take some action, you've done a pretty good job, you know. So I think people come out to have fun and to dance and to be entertained. And while that's happening, I think that the information that they received, the idea for me, rock was always something that broadened my consciousness. It always did that for me, and it still does. And I think that as a man, that's what I've wanted to do with my music. And the audience comes out, it has its opportunity to have a good time, but also to take the information that we throw in the air back home with them and to apply it in their own lives and to help the cause of human rights. Well, I'd like to believe that music can change people's minds and attitudes and feelings about themselves, about their own humanity, and in doing so, changes the way they look on the next guy, you know. And you know, I don't believe. I think maybe when I was younger, I thought, well, maybe we can, you know, you take a guitar up and you can save the world. I don't really believe that anymore. But I do believe that you can save a life and you can save time in someone's life. If someone comes to the show, they hear the message, they hear what we're singing about, they go home, they write a letter, someone gets out of prison early, that's pretty good. He told me about Amnesty, he told me about the 40th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights and what it meant was also something. Amnesty is an international organization, something that previously when I've done things, generally I've been involved in the States, but I haven't had a chance to get involved with an organization with a group of musicians where there were some international implications. And at the moment, I don't think there's a more important organization in the world than Amnesty International.